A warm welcome to another edition of CEO Stories. I'm really pleased to welcome Sarbani Bose to this call. And she's also the founder and CEO of Disha, which is an AI analytics education platform. And she's the managing director of EI Square, which is a data consultancy she founded back in 2019. She led EI Square to win Business of the Year, and that was in the SME Surrey Awards in 2024. So, Sarbani, it's a real pleasure. I'm glad we're finally doing this discussion.
First of all, Tom, thank you for having me. It's a real honor to speak with you openly in a very casual, informal, discussive environment. As you know, my journey started helping the bigger corporates in their data transformation work through digital transformation, but very much focused on the data side. I consider myself to be a very passionate data strategist, and that led me to realize that the gap of how data is used and for what purpose is very different between the bigger enterprises and the smaller sectors or sectors who are very data nascent. So EI Square was formed with exactly that purpose in mind, increasing the data literacy for sectors like education, social housing, housing associations, not-for-profit. Bridge some of the gap in making data realized as an asset rather than as a byproduct of your technology that is used. So that was the purpose of EI Squares. That's the purpose why I formed EI Square, to reach out and increase the data literacy of the leaders within those sectors.
And then you also have Disha,
Yes.
which is another.
So from there, as we focused on building the data literacy capability within education, social housing sector, when I look back into how data was used in corporate versus in the education sector, let's focus on the education primarily, because Disha is an ed tech product. I sat back and I thought, not only was the data usage within the education space, schools, is inefficient, it was unfair. So yes, the leaders didn't know how, what, and where they should focus their data efforts on, but most of the time they are, and it is a very well-known fact that schools are time poor, resource constrained, right? That's very well known. So of course they don't get to a point where they are reflecting and looking at the information and making decisions. So I thought back, this isn't how it should be done. What can I do in order to take that manual effort, labor of presenting information? So the first thought that came to my mind was, how do I bridge the gap between information availability and information accessibility, right? We are not talking of creating new data. We are not talking of, sending people to a completely different planet or Mars or whatever. We are talking of effective use of data they already collect. We all know about student outcomes, right? So what can we do so that we make that process very efficient for schools or groups of schools, right? The things that they are focusing on. And that was the seed that gave birth to Disha. So Disha is a AI-powered analytical platform that helps schools, groups of schools, to automate and streamline their data management. So it takes all the pain away of you having to build or see the data, and it gives you back the time that you need to focus on with the information that you want to use for the betterment of the students.
Now, I've got a ton of questions just off the back of that intro, so I'll try to structure them. The first thought in my mind is, so that sounds like a really great purpose, but I'm really curious. I mean, you've been in corporate roles, so big enterprises, some more typical kind of, I guess, strategic consulting and delivery kind of roles. This switch into feeling like you can make a change, you can actually change the trajectory of an industry, and your skills did that kind of come naturally to you to do, or is it something you feel was sort of more a journey?
So let me give you a little bit of my personal upbringing, which might help. So I lost my dad when I was 7 years old, and my mom was a school teacher, right? And I was the younger of the two siblings. So my sister is older to me. And I think it's a bit of a personality thing, I would say, because if I reflect on some of the stuff I did when I was 7 year old in terms of helping my mom, because she was a single lady. I grew up back in India and I did my studies, my engineering. But when I was seven, the sum of the responsible 7 or 10, I lost my dad at 7, but I know I did certain help with my mom, which if I now reflect back, having two kids, I don't think I would have thought that a 10-year-old would do. And as I grew up, I know my family relied a lot on, oh, if you tell this to Sabani, it will get done. Or
Right.
if you do this, it will get done. And that eventually shone through in my professional career as well. Even through the corporate roles, I would pick up things that were difficult, right? That had a difficulty in progressing. And you don't realize those traits or personality strengths of yours because you're just going through the motions, right? You're just going through achieving. When you sit back and think, you realize, oh, there is a personality here which helps, possibly which helps to do that, because I'm always looking at blockers in a very logical way, to reach out. Okay, if this is a blocker here, what do I need to do in order to break that? I think that helped from going from a corporate role, strategic delivery role, combined with the passion of helping a sector that is so nascent, that two powered together with a personality that wants to make a difference, has what helped in creating Disha.
So my next question is then, if you're naturally taking on that responsibility, you've got two businesses that you're running, a female founder, which is a great thing, which, by the way, a lot of people have asked me for, so we should talk more to female founders. So you're a shining light for others too.
Thank you.
Don't you ever feel like the burden gets too much if you've carried that from a young age and you're sort of carrying that into adulthood? Is there not a point where you feel like, actually, can I go back to that 7-year-old again, and then it sort of just be like without responsibility?
I think there is a soul satisfaction in taking that responsibility and fulfilling it. That does not necessarily mean I don't have my downtime or my down days. I absolutely do. I remember categorically during April 2020, because remember, I just floated the concept of EI Square, trying to get it to I think June or July 2019 was when that whole concept about educating, reaching out to data nascent industries. And come 6, 8, 10 months time, we have lockdown, right? So literally stopped. And that month was very hard for me. Very, very hard. So I do a lot of, whenever I am doing a lot of journaling, I'm talking a lot to myself. I know that I need to take a little break, right? I know I can't solve all of world's problems myself. What I can do is collectively empower people, collectively build the literacy, and hopefully that way. It has taken me a long time to reach that point, Tom, where I can say to myself, Sabani, you can't solve all of the data nascent industries problems. There is a lot that goes in, and you have to navigate. You have to just make sure what your objective and purpose is, which is to gain the literacy, data literacy of the leaders within this organization above to where you started on with. If I could do that little bit of making them aware of that, then I have done my job. So it does, there are times, to go back to your question, there are times, yes, the responsibility weighs on me heavily. I do have a good support team. My husband is a great support, though he has sometimes never hears enough of that, but he's an absolute support, and bless him, he gets a lot of that, the ups and downs. He's the first hand who receives that. But yeah, I think I find I can't function. I won't be Sarbani if I didn't take responsibility.
On the one hand, how you validate your value. So if you feel that you've contributed and made a difference, that's sort of what you feel is your real achievement. And then I kind of heard that in your description of wanting to change the industry just that bit. And the first thing that came up in my mind is almost like, why care so much? So whether you change an industry or not. And of course, it's a meaningful purpose, so I'm not pulling away from that. But I guess there are so many causes, so many different areas where you can spend your energy. And does this sort of go back to, as you said, that childhood sort of drive, sort of supporting your mum, and then is that what kind of makes that your key passion?
I think, I have thought about this, that why education, why social housing? I value mental health. I value humans being as a species and what they are capable of. So the tendency, of course, will go towards sectors that really focuses on that aspect. Education, because they are the future generations. They are the ones who are going to lead. They are the ones who are going to make a difference. And I have thought whether it is because my mom was a teacher, and I know growing up, she focused a lot on helping the unprivileged, and what in her own ways, whatever she could do, she did help the unprivileged one. And I grew up looking at that. I grew up seeing that my mom's doing something which is outside of her normal, what she does. So maybe that has an effect. I can't necessarily put a reason as to why, but when I see something that is so immatured, and when I know the other side, which is hugely matured, my immediate thing is to bring the maturity of that sectors a little bit closer to what the matured sector does, right? So that's where I would put why I dedicate so much time on education.
On this particular, yeah. And I kind of want to just flip back to something else you said, which is around COVID and that sort of horrible time when you realize, okay, so a lot of your plans are kind of now, no matter how much responsibility you take, some things kind of got in the way that you can't control. And the point where that hits you hard, where you feel that you're now out of control and it doesn't matter how practical you are. A, I'm kind of curious about how that felt, and then B, I'm curious about how you deal with it. So how do you step out of, and you mentioned a little bit of things like journaling and some sort of habits. Just take me back to that moment, that time a little bit more, and then tell me sort of about your process and then what it is that you do.
It's a very good question, and I'm going to reflect on my corporate life. When you are in a strategic delivery role in the corporate enterprises, there is process. There are processes you go through, so you know the direction. It's not that you are not faced with challenges, but there is a process around there. COVID was completely uncharted, unknown, uncertain area that you were landed in, right? You had no control in terms of even your own movements. Forget about a process with dealing with others, right? You had no control. I am a very person to person, standing, physical, a person. I like human connection. I would anytime drive 3 hours to go and have a conversation, to spend an afternoon with a group of people, than be on a virtual setting. Having said this now, that was what was me in April 2020, right? It was March, April 2020. But one thing is, I would say, I'm able to quickly journal, talk about it to myself, and then think about things you can control, think about things you can't control. So what could you control? Sabani, your connection with people and your building relation has been stopped physically. But guess what? There is a world of opportunities. You don't necessarily have to drive you don't have to fly to US. It's just as quick to just have this conversation. It's just as quick to have this. So it was Sabani's learning for sure, right? A lot of people, I mean, we have done this with, in a corporate setting, you're managing offshore team as well. So it's all there, but the mindset is slightly different. The mindset of corporate strategic delivery versus mindset of building relationship is very different.
Yeah. There was so many things there that you said that I wanted to pick up. So one that I wanted to pick up on was funny stories I had on LinkedIn. This debate with someone in probably 2018 where, and I don't like to have debates on LinkedIn. I like to have constructive conversation, but I made a kind of a statement that I think corporate work life, in theory, could be different. So we could be working for multiple companies. Every person could be like just delivering a service to a company and maybe work 2 days for Deloitte and work 2 days for some telecoms, and it should be allowed. I don't understand why our contracts are so exclusive and you could work remotely. This is kind of statement I made. And I remember getting quite a lot of stick from this one person who said, you're thinking like a small company, but because I think I just started, it's maybe 2019, I just started Decision Crew. And, but a big company like ours, and coincidentally, he was working for Accenture, which I worked for before. And, at Accenture, we could never do something like that. It needs to be in person. And of course, then COVID hit and big organizations were forced to think differently, were forced to think remotely and to be more flexible. So sometimes these big upsets forces us to face what we think is impossible, to then sort of adapt. And I really like your way of what can I control, what can't I control, and then see the opportunity. And I think the quicker we do that, the better in shifting to opportunity. And it almost attaches to the self-care bit, but I remember Novak Djokovic, the tennis player, talking about when he's in stressful moments in tennis matches, what he does is he doesn't try not to be stressed. He tries to see how quickly can he recover from the stress. So he focuses on basics like breathing. So just regulate his breathing because he can control that. And he can't control the outcome of the match. He can't control how he's going to feel, but he can control what he physically does. And he knows when he starts focusing on the basics, he can regain some of his composure. And the quicker you do that, he said, that's what separates the champions from the people who don't tend to win matches. And I really sort of see something of what you're saying in that, in like how you kind of channel your thoughts.
Absolutely. I mean, days when my walk is for a purpose of me detaching from my work, just so that I can have that composure and self-care, because something really is going on which I am finding a little bit challenging. When I leave home versus when I come back after an hour, completely two different mindset. And I could see the two different personalities. It is weird when you become the third party of yourself and you have detached yourself and you are seeing the person who is leaving the home and you're seeing the person who is coming back. That's just weird, but you could actually see how it helps when you come back, because sometimes when you're deep in that moment, you have to get yourself up into a helicopter view to break that down. You can't do it when you're really in it. So sometimes you just have to do it, and I can see why that breathing, that whatever helps, but it has to help in taking that thought process out. You have to be away in a setting where it is not your normal setting of decision making.
I do want to talk about your achievements. So you won this award. So you've gone through COVID. You've now tried to set up a more flexible team. And then if we now look at the things you've done right. So this was a award in Surrey for business of sort of young business of the year. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, SME awards in Surrey is like small medium enterprises, and they conduct this award ceremony where they look at companies with growth, companies with businesswoman of the year, and the business growth. So we applied for the awards, and then you have to go through interview. They look their external body that does the due diligence of what you're saying. You have to provide evidence for that, and then references. And for businesswoman of the year, they interview you, and then you go through. So yes, so we won. I won the silver businesswoman of the year. I never considered, well, after that, I have to say I'm a businesswoman. I never considered myself as a businesswoman. I still say that I am a passionate data strategist. Commercial is not, I am not commercial. And it is hard, I will say this, Tom, because not coming from commercial side and building a business up is hard. It still is hard because all you're doing is generating and talking about value, generating and talking about outcomes that will help. So yes, so won that, and we won. EI Square won the Business of the Year. Less than 50 employees. So yes, was very, very pleased. And those moments reflect of the hard work that I had done since 2019. It just gives you extra validation that yes, what you have done is right, what you are doing is right, so keep doing the right things.
And you don't know what the road ahead looks like, right? It could all fail at any point in time, and you could be the main person responsible because you've started all this, And talk to me about that feeling of when you get announced as the winner, when you see that you've won it and you've won with your team, and sort of the difference, I guess, between that and the 2020 moment.
Oh, it was, well, I don't want to sound cliche, but it was so surreal. It was like, look, it is when I win it, it's not just me, right? I have won it. I was the driver, but I wouldn't be going to a destination if the passengers didn't guide me or wasn't there, was not creating. So imagine you are going in a new road, right? And everybody's helping you with the direction, right? Or everybody, and you are just there, oh yeah, this looks right. This is where you go. So yes, you are driving. Yes, you are making those very critical decisions. Yes, but you are backed by a team that is doing and delivering, right? So it was as much about me, it was about the team. So it is actually, I always give back, it is the team, right? You wouldn't do something if it was not the team.
I guess there's that validation point too, right? So there's yes, it's not just down to you, but I guess all the doubts that creep up in your mind, all the questions, and in a sense, what's nice about a award like this is someone from the outside says, well, I can see some potential in what you guys are doing. And to you personally, at least, it must feel like okay, I'm not insane. I must be on a journey where we're delivering something of value.
Exactly. That validation gives you extra boost, motivation, encouragement that yes, you are doing that 100%. It does sort of strengthen your conviction to do what you're doing.
Challenges women face in leadership, right? So it is a bit different. Someone else we want to interview couldn't interview because she was having a baby, so we'll probably have her on the podcast soon as well. Being a mother and being a leader, being a wife, I can't relate. So I'm very curious about how you feel nowadays. So how do you feel like the world's moved on and there's a lot of space for female entrepreneurs and it's a lot more even? Or do you think women face unique challenges that men aren't always aware of?
I'm taking a moment to answer that. I think women do face certain unique challenges that men cannot fathom. Yeah. And it's not said in a sense that men don't care or men don't want to care or don't do, not at all. If you don't know something, you don't know something, right? You wouldn't be able to feel it if you don't know something. Keeping aside the whole bias and judgment about men, I have been in 2019, I have been in a room full of men, with me being the single woman. Forget about women of color. I don't like to bring color, race, gender, because I believe that one should go ahead with the skills and your expertise. But like it or not, there are certain biases within the society that exists. Yeah. For example, I'm just going to say it because that is the truth, and men won't know. When women go through their monthly cycle, there are some women who will have such an excruciating pain on the first couple of days, and that pain might vary depending on, it's not constant. It may, you might be very well the first month and you forget, you book a meeting, get what, you just cannot get up. You might be sick, you might be throwing up, right? So being able to openly speak about, I'm speaking about it, but not all women will openly speak about, guess why I can't come to the office or I can't attend the meeting because I am in this much pain. Yeah. So these are some of the things. There are situations where men can't fathom.
Yeah, no, I fully, that's partly why I asked the question, because I think there are sort of subtle expectations as well, so if I think about family setups, and then often the mum is expected to take care of kids or more take care of the kids, like have the motherly feel, whereas it's more okay for dads to be slightly more independent. There is more co-parenting happening now. I think that is slightly changing, but I just think in terms of the pressures of having to more focus, like to be expected to do more on the family side, but also then on the work side, I think that's different, and I can't fathom that. Certainly not what you just described, how that feels. And I think it's easy kind of to forget, because every day, you work with colleagues and everything feels fine, right? So you don't know,
Exactly.
you don't know what you know. And I also know from sometimes what I think happens is because you're not necessarily seeing something in a particular way. So I work with women all the time. I don't think anything of it. I actually think women are a great, potentially better than men in some instances, in certain kind of roles. And so for me, it's never been a thing. I always like to be just whoever's best for the role should be doing a role. That's the only thing that's the only thing that matters to me. But then I assume that everyone else thinks the same way. And then you see stories which at first glance you might dismiss and think, oh, maybe that's just someone who's a bit disgruntled. And when you hear the backstory behind it, you realize that actually unfortunately, in some cases, there are still just biases and discrimination going on, and the world's not a fair place.
Yeah, I would like to add to the point you made about women spending, dedicating time at home versus professional. So when you raise awareness about women's workload, both professionally and personally and at home, I think it's not just organizations. So, yes, organizations need to be aware of that, but I think every family and the men within the family need to take accountability and responsibility, right? They need to look at, right, what's going on here, right? How, because, there are certain things you can't change. Going back to what you can control, what you can't control. If a child is uh, more responsive to a motherly love and wants the mother, then please be aware of that and make sure you can do things that are more physical work around the house, so that the woman's work is distributed between her professional career and the child that she is attending to. So I think every individual person has a role to play when you want to bring up that balance and when you want to reduce that uh, women's workload, both in office and outside office.
Yeah, you just kind of brought someone to mind. Someone I really respect is Sarah Blakely of the company Spanx, and I respect her really almost as a female entrepreneur, because what she seems to be fantastic at is keeping her innate personality and still be a leader and be able to run and be a billionaire and still be the person that she was when she was just a single founder starting up this idea. Also being a mother with lots of kids and balancing all of that. And it kind of made me think that maybe women also have an ability to bring something different to the table than men. So I listen to men, and men is like business is war, like it's sort of survival of the fittest, all that. And then I hear someone like Sarah, where she goes like, I don't look at the competition, I look at my customer. And that's who I focus on, and that's what I am concerned about. And she's obviously been very successful doing that. But the other interesting story I remember from her book was that she was telling or it was a sort of a training course that she did, but she was saying that when she went into fashion and she went to a lot of the factories and people were telling her how the garments should be made, she was questioning why is it made that way? And they were like, you have to make it this way, there's no other way. And she said, can we just try another way? And there was quite a lot of persuasion she had to do. And then eventually she realized she's surrounded by men. And actually in the industry, men have been making clothes for women, not having to wear the clothes and knowing what it feels like. So it was a great example of how you sort of don't quite practice what you preach, where you think you're in a position to understand how someone else feels. And she had to kind of go in there and realize, like, no, they don't know how it feels. So I'm probably in a better, even though I'm the novice, I'm in a better place to actually disrupt this industry, which she did.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where I would say that leadership needs to know. So you can have a workforce, though I don't agree to the workforce being all one gender, because then you're not bringing the diversity of thoughts. You can have a specialized skill workforce which predominantly could be male, because that's the skill. I'm just purely basing on the skill and expertise that you have. But then you got to see the audience that your outcome is for, right? So you can't have creating clothes for women and not tested on women. I mean, that's where the leadership is clearly not joined up. Why haven't we tested? Let's hear the feedback.
And I assume they do tests, but then do like for a half an hour test where someone wears it, and not sort of for a month or 6 months, right?
So when I say test, I mean feedback, effective circular feedback going into your product itself. So when I'm saying this, I'm thinking about Disha and how we get the feedback of the product usage from schools going back to it. back to the product. Like what would that help? You have to have that mindset of who your product is helping and how I can enrich that product. And that's where I think the leadership and the ego, the all of that thing comes in terms of how much they want to bend and how much they don't want to bend.
Yeah, and then I was literally thinking about Disha when you talked about this feedback loop, and I was thinking, you kind of have, it's not when you build a product, it's not I've built it, here it is, it should work. There's sort of almost a life after the product's been built and a continuous cycle. And it also makes me think of what we said earlier when, you're in 2020 versus 2024, and there's that journey where you don't necessarily know where it leads. So I'm kind of curious about your challenges when you've had to do this. I guess when you get something or you don't get feedback, what has been the hardest thing for you having to get Disha up and running, and potentially it's still ongoing, as in what your challenges are? Do you want to tell me about sort of mindset wise or just physical, like practical items wise? What's been the biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge, because remember I said it's a very data nascent industry, the biggest challenge when they look at Disha, they think Power BI dashboard. So to make them understand that it's an insights product and not a plain reporting. Yes, you do get reporting, definitely, but the usability of the product is very insights driven, right? And as we go through onboarding schools, they realize, and you can see the data maturity. I mean, these are clever, talented academics. They will understand. They just has not been exposed to an environment where they can see this, or they have not been exposed to a concept of data being an asset. They have done it in their own weird ways. So the first thing they see when they take on Disha is, oh my God, yes, you saved us 10-12 hours per week. But then I say, right, now I'm going to ask you for some work. And they immediately clock that. Okay, so how are you? Oh, to this week, I am looking at our unauthorized absences. And I am looking at why we have so many unauthorized absences. And I said, brilliant. This is what I want from you. So what process are you putting in place for your unauthorized absence? What process are you putting in place that shows that your behavior strategy need to change, right? That is when they start to think, oh yeah, it is not just my report numbers that I need to report to DFE or what have you. How can I use the tool to make those smaller decisions? Guess what? One was, we have a concept in Disha which is called key influences, which basically gives you whichever data point you're analyzing. Beyond that, it gives you other data point that may influence that data point, right? So what we saw, and very weirdly, you would not have expected this, that people with higher, let me get this right, the correlation was people with lower attendance has higher good behavior points. That is very interesting, right? So my point to the school was, are you rewarding behavior because you want to bring them back to school? Then what has those students done who are attending, who are getting, and they aren't getting as much behavior? So what happens in assembly? You obviously are encouraging a behavior of low attendance, whereas you already have other students who are attending very well, who are having a good attainment, and yet they are not getting that behavior marks. So maybe you are doing it to encourage these people back into the classroom, but you've got to make a balance. So those, to answer your question about challenge is educating the sector that Disha isn't just Power BI dashboard.
Yeah, I've seen an interesting case ages ago when we did automate from a spreadsheet into a dashboard. I saw that the first dashboard we built, we were asked to build very similar to the way the spreadsheet looks. And I find that people have a natural transition to something that's familiar first before they can go innovative. So there's sort of a stage transformation that the human mind has to make. And my wife also, I know that I'm the one who's the first person to pick up a new innovation and sort of, if it's ChatGPT, and to say, hey, this thing's awesome. And I have to tell her a few times to kind of really look to adopt this before she's ready to accept that as a new innovation. And I think it's just a difference in people. And once I was at a conference at Gartner in London, and I saw, when I looked across the floor, I mean, there are hundreds of vendors, technologies, and companies. And then I realized, like, almost no one, and maybe there are one or two, so not to do a disservice to them, but talks about changing the process around how all these technologies gets implemented. So everyone is focused on what tool can do it. So I think you're 100% right. It's like, even when you introduce it, there's the human factor. And this leads me to my next question, which is, AI, everyone says is going to change. You're building an AI tool. But in a broader sense, outside of Disha, what do you think does AI changes imply for our combined future? What do you see happening in the next few years? And, when it comes to these sort of human processes, how much of that is going to change?
It's a very good question. Tom, I love that technology. That AI technology is from a just focus on the technology aspect. I love that technology. It is absolutely going to hamper, unfortunately, certain sectors more than others, right? And when I say AI technology, I'm speaking predominantly on generative AI technology, right? Because look, non-generative, our Disha platform is a non-generative tech. We will be using the Gen AI technology, but Disha's AI is more around machine learning, NLP, all of that, right? So, but the generative AI technology is fabulous, right? I don't necessarily like to sit and, I'm not that creative in writing, yeah? But I can sort of open up Word and just journal my thoughts around what is good, what is bad, what should somebody do, and then I put it in Chat GPT and say, rewrite this, please, for me. And so it has still used my original content, but has written it in a much better way, right? Then I take that and then I use my, I would say it in a different way. And then I read it and I adapt. So if you think about this process of just my usage of the technology, the human is definitely in the loop, right? The human actually started it. The human actually wrote not creative at all, wrote the piece, what the human was thinking, used the technology in the way that complements the human, took that, and then changed or kept that content, right? So in that whole, if I had to just do that, just do the end product of what the technology did, I don't know, maybe it took me a couple of hours a day, whereas that got reduced to just a few hours, right? So there is definitely efficiency, being that extra person, extra help for humans that is there. So, but what is important in this story that I said about the usage is the how the technology is being used. I am a data literate person. I know exactly what happens when you're inputting into ChatGPT. I know exactly the compute, the process, the energy that uses. So I'm very well aware of, the use of the technology, right? I mean, people don't know every query in ChatGPT takes 10 times the energy than a Google search, right?
Yeah.
That's and you wouldn't. I mean, normal people wouldn't know, and they're not expected to know, right? That's because we understand what behind the scenes. What is it that ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever you have it, DALI for the images that go and do? needs compute, needs processes. Yeah. So, and so I am able to utilize the technology with a balance, right? Keeping balance in mind. But not everybody is. But do I love the technology? Boy, it is really, really good, 100%. But is it going at a pace that I can see some dangers happening? 100%, right? And that's where the data literacy comes in. So, for example, you have people using, because we don't want to use notes, people use some AI
Right.
technology that does your voice, your facial, everything. I am very clear that you can transcribe, use a tool for transcription. Neither images, nor voice, nor facial is going. Why? Because it just needs to sit, it just needs to go into um, one wrong hands in order to absolutely be it in a the risk of it going into a wrong hand is so
Yeah.
huge that wouldn't want to happen at all, especially those AI technologies which aren't able to articulate how or what happens with your data.
Yeah, I heard Sam Altman talking the other day about the dangers of banking apps using voice recognition or using face recognition, because now it is possible to do deepfakes. So I never really thought about those until he mentioned it. So it's good that he's calling it out. But I'm like you in that I'm an AI positive, whereas I believe in the opportunity, but naturally that's usually the first thing I see before I see the danger. And someone sent me something recently. It talks about the entrepreneurial cycle, where at first you are excited partially because you don't know how difficult it is to do what you want to do, right? And like you, I also see that it will impact some roles. I think a lot. I even think in the data space, there's some very good analytics or reports that already come out of ChatGPT if you gave it some data. And I just like talking about risks when I'm excited about opportunity. So I'm like, yeah, we'll manage that. But I do agree that there's going to be good constraints around it. Interesting little story. I was reading this morning that in the UK, that there's a supercomputer that's being built. I think it just went live in July. And just the gates outside of this supercomputer cost £275,000. So just the gates to protect this supercomputer. And I think the actual computer costs 10 times that much. Did I say 275 million? Sorry, not
I was
thousand.
about to say it can't
Yeah.
be 275,000.
Yeah, 275 million. Yeah. So the enormous amount. And so it was billions to build a computer. And the UK considers that to still be lagging, compared to the sort of leading players in the world. So the amount of investment, the amount of compute, the amount of energy that goes into this is enormous. If you were to give advice, I guess, to someone today, so if we say, okay, right, AI is going to disrupt, what would you say, maybe even to the young female entrepreneurs who want to sort of start businesses, is looking at some of it? Do you have any of your learnings through this platform that you can now say, actually, I've learned X, Y, and Z, don't do this, or absolutely do this? Are there any sort of advice you would give them?
Sometimes keeping things simple and basic is the way to go. So, anyone who wants to use AI, I always say, just use a couple of hours in a storyboard, in a whiteboard session. What do you want to use it for? What is it that is going to help, or what is it that you're thinking of the outcome of it is, and what is it going to save, and what are the alternate that are available? All this, and then every time keep in mind, where is the human? Where is the human here? So I go back to the basics of any AI technology being used. Why do you want to use it, and what is giving you? Absolutely, as I said, I love that technology and people should embrace it, but they should embrace it with knowledge. They should embrace it with the risks that come with it if things go wrong. I mean, you take insurance not thinking that you're always going to have accident, right? But you take insurance knowing that you are protected if you have an accident. And I don't think that whole thought process is being thought through when you are going through the implementation of AI technology. I think the first thing people look at is the opportunity and the excitement of what it can do, rather than what if things go wrong.
I have a very different question for you next, Sarbani. So, yeah, it's a really simple one. What are you afraid of?
I said at the start that I don't come from a commercial background, so that is always a challenge for me. Not necessarily the running and the commerce of the organization, but the growth at a pace that a commercial, possibly a person can do. My fear, I wouldn't say fear, and I'll tell you why I wouldn't say fear. It possibly was a fear a couple of years. You have to look at that, the worst case scenario, and you have to be able to look it at the face and break it down, right? As long as you're doing everything and you are going in the right direction, then enjoy the journey. Outcome, you can't control the outcome, right? So my fear in that respect is, I do want the data maturity for the education sector to really go up. If my fear is it wouldn't, and it will be stagnant at where it is. But am I doing the way I deal with that? I think at myself, am I doing everything to raise the bar? Am I speaking? Am I telling people, whoever I am saying is, come on, you're still talking dashboards. Where's the data? Where's the data as an asset? What decisions are you making? So, my fear is it will be sad that even in 5-10 years time, the maturity is still lurking around somewhere where I didn't expect it to be. But if along the way I have touched few leaders and opened up their eyes, I think I've done my job.
This kind of leads me actually into the last question I want to ask you, which is around, I want to kind of go back to the start of this interview where you're talking about the 7-year-old version of you and taking on this responsibility. And I kind of heard a bit of that responsibility in your previous response. Imagine the 80-year-old version of you is talking to that girl, telling her a story about what it is that you've achieved throughout your life and why it was successful. Tell me what you'd be saying to the 7-year-old girl that you would say, this is why my life ended up a success.
I would say, and some of the things I actually tell my kids, which I haven't been able to say to my own self, is have a little fun, right? It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay. And I think I do that to the team and to the culture of the company, that failure is a success because from failures you learn. But I think my 7-year-old was very hard on failures. My 10-year-old was very hard on failures. And if I reflect back, and I think it's because I took the responsibility of others and I was like, okay, others expect this to happen. But I would tell, it's fine. It's fine to fail. It's fine to do it incorrectly. Get up and do it correctly next time. If you fail next time, you still learn, get up and do it. So I think I would ease off on those aspects, and definitely include have a lot of fun along the way.
Have a lot of fun, yeah. So what we accumulate in life is the experiences we have, right? Not necessarily the successes alone. Are there any final words you would leave for anyone? So that's listening to this, who's maybe thinking of starting. You already gave some great pieces of advice there, but I'm just wanting to give you an opportunity to close out with any final thoughts.
I would say to anybody who has a passion on something, to give it a try. Don't be guided by a perception of you or a view of you, either made by yourself or formed by yourself based on a surrounding. Give it a try, but keep the balance. Give it a try in the sense of not this way or that way. Keep it a balance in giving it a try. And don't be disheartened if that doesn't work the first time, pivot, learn, implement, action. That's what I would say.
That's really great. And I think if you combine that with keeping it simple, like you said, and literally having that continuous learning as you go along, I think that's amazing advice. So thank you so much for sharing that, for sharing stories of your journey. I wish we had another hour, because I think there's a lot we could talk about what you've learned. But that was really great, and it's really great to hear about your stories almost in a formal sense, because I know we speak a lot. But thank you for coming on to this, and I wish you all the success with Disha, and of course with EI Square as well at the same time. And I really do hope that you manage to make a dent in the education industry with all that.
Tom, thank you for having me. And I know we speak a lot, but it has been fabulous just to have this informal conversation around our ethics, our values, our purpose. And yeah, thank you very much for Decision Crew to give me this chance to speak about it.
Fantastic. We wish you all the best, Sarbani, and take care.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.